for about for about 8 years before I got lucky enough to get this job, and that's where the governance portion of my title comes in. I just make sure that the board stays within their policies, procedures, and their guidelines and help them with any of those administrative functions. Engagement is the second part of my title, and it is what I'm doing today. So I get the honor and the privilege of talking to people about the importance of professional certification in all things NCIDQ. And then last but certainly not least, I handle all the meetings for CIDQ as well, and I'm their meeting planner. So with that, let's go ahead and get started talking about the NCIDQ exam. Is this working? I don't know. Hold on, let me stop sharing because I think something funky is going on. I'm so sorry.
Technology is always our friend, Kayla, so don't worry.
It wasn't like letting me advance the slide, so, okay. So you should now be able to see the second slide, I believe. Yes, you are good. Sorry about that. So why is the NCIDQ certification so important? Well, the NCIDQ is the gold standard for interior design credentialing, and there is no other interior design credential that measures the practitioner's ability to protect the public health, safety, and welfare through their practice. So holding an NCIDQ credential does mean that you've demonstrated a specific set of core competencies that are verified by your work experience and a college degree. Last year, we celebrated NCIDQ's 50th anniversary. And in that span of time, we have about 38,000 who have earned our credential. So we are a pretty exclusive group, and we do add about 1,000 certificate holders each year. So having an NCIDQ credential does also mean that you can obtain licensure in other states easier. So what we at CIDQ do is we offer certification validation to all other jurisdictions, and all regulated jurisdictions require the NCIDQ certification with the exception of California in order to be legally recognized as a design professional in the state. Most governmental interior design jobs in the US do require that you hold the NCIDQ credential. And last but certainly not least, money is always a huge factor. So in the IIDA Interior Design Compensation Report, it was found that people holding an NCIDQ certificate make about almost $15,000 more a year than if you were not NCIDQ certified. So that's a huge benefit. All right, technology. So these are the topics that we're going to talk about today. I'll go over some recent news, then we'll go over some exam information. So we'll go over your exam basics as well as show you some exam blueprints. We'll talk about your application process, so your eligibility pass, your education, and your work experience requirements. We'll go over your dates, your deadlines, your fees, how to study for the exams, how the exams are scored, and last but certainly not least, what that certification is going to mean to you when you obtain it. Now, all of the information I do go over today is available on our website, so please feel free to check that out when you have some time. There's some really great resources on there, such as a 3D tool. It was a sports bar here in Washington, D.C., and it kind of lets you walk through the sports bar and hit certain areas where it shows you or shows the general public how you protect the public health, safety, and welfare as interior designers. I like to play with that tool a lot. It's a lot of fun to show people. As well as for our advocacy efforts, we created an interior decorator versus interior designer video last year, and that's gotten a lot of views and a lot of momentum behind it as well. It's about a 2-minute video, and it kind of just explains the difference of how interior designers protect public health, safety, and welfare, and how interior decorators do not. So definitely recommend that, and a whole bunch of other resources available on our website whenever you get some time. So let's talk about some recent news regarding the NCIDQ. So last February, over a year ago now, we did implement new work experience requirements, but let's go in depth on that a little bit later. It seems to fit in after I talk about the application process, and we'll go into the reasons why we changed those work experience requirements and how they're going to benefit you. The NCIDQ candidate handbook is the primary source of information for the NCIDQ exam. So this handbook does provide you, the candidate, with everything that you need to know to understand the certification process. If you are planning on taking the NCIDQ, you should read and be familiar with the policies and procedures that are outlined in that candidate handbook. Finally, remote proctoring is here to stay. So with COVID, we brought on the ability to take the IDFX and IDPX at home in your PJs through remote proctoring. Now, there is a third section of our exam called the practicum that you have to actually go to a prometric test site to take that exam. But we are exploring the option of all 3 exams being available remotely or at a prometric test site, whichever you choose, in 2026. So let's talk about the exams. The NCIDQ is made up of 3 exams. You'll have your IDFX, or the fundamentals exam, which is all multiple choice, and it's designed for graduating seniors, recent graduates, or individuals who are in their last year of a bachelor's or master's interior design program. The IDFX does not require any work experience and is focused more on book learning and academic information. The IDPX, or the professional exam, is all multiple choice as well, and it's designed for individuals with a minimum of 2 years of work experience and is focused more on the practical application of the knowledge that you've obtained. Now, the practicum exam is much different. It is not multiple choice, and it does contain various question types that include hotspot, drag and place, and fill in the blank. It does not require any drawings, and it is not software specific, so you only need to be able to use a mouse. The practicum exam is currently based on 3 case studies. You're going to have a large commercial, a small commercial, and a multifamily residential case. And in each of the case studies, we do include a series of resource and reference material of items that include things like your project description, your floor plan, reflected ceiling plan, door and hardware schedules, lighting cut sheets, and code information. Now, I do want to bring to your attention the bottom of the chart here. So the IDFX and IDPX do contain 25 pretest questions. The practicum contains 9 pretest questions. You will not know which one of these questions are the pretest questions because we use them to develop future exams. Now, I'm going to stop here and give you a little disclaimer. If you're not aware, the NCIDQ exam is changing in 2026. And there are some big changes that are happening. And it all reflects in this slide here, where the format of all 3 exams is going to move to more of what the practicum is now. So across all 3 exams in 2026, you're going to have multiple choice, hotspot, drag and place, and fill in the blank. But do not worry, because I will provide you a copy of this PDF slide deck so you can see how the exam blueprints are now, because we still have 1 exam administration left to take this exam on the current format. And then I'm also going to provide you those 2026 blueprints, so that way you can see how the exam is going to change and be really prepared for any instance that you choose. So let's talk about how people are always interested in understanding how people perform on each of the sections of the exam, right? So it's important to understand that all credentialing organizations have experienced a COVID-related phenomenon in which we saw a dip in pass rates. So whether it's architects, veterinarians, or attorneys, everyone's experienced this, and we in interior design are no different. But now that folks have returned to more in-person education and work experiences, we do predict that the pass rates for the IDFX should increase about 8 or 9% and rebound to pre-COVID levels this year. So this exam is not easy, as you can tell, but it is certainly obtainable to pass the exam with focused and dedicated preparation. So we're about to go into all 3 of the exams, and I'll show you some exam blueprints. Please keep in mind that what I'm showing you right now on the screen is based on the current blueprints. But like I said before, I will definitely provide you those 2026 blueprints and a PDF copy of this PowerPoint slide deck. So keep that in mind as your disclaimer as we're going through. So the fundamentals exam, or the IDFX, is 125 questions. This is an exam blueprint. And all of the exam blueprints are based on a practice analysis that are done every 5 years. And that's the reason why the exam is changing in 2026. It's a direct result of that practice analysis. And these analysis that we do are study of the profession and how our exam content is being used in day-to-day applications. Now, remember, for all the blueprints I show you today, of course, our website does provide a little bit more in-depth information, but I'm also going to provide that to you as well. And what you're going to see is under any of these domains, let's say, for example, programming and site analysis, you're going to see a list of examples of what you must demonstrate an understanding and appropriate use of. This information in detail will help you better prepare for what's being tested. Remember that the IDFX is designed for recent graduates of a bachelor's or master's interior design program. And it's to test your academic knowledge, so you do not need any work experience to take this exam. You will be given 3 hours to complete it, and it is available through remote proctoring, or you can go to our Prometric test site. The IDPX. So the professional exam, or the IDPX, is 150 questions. The IDPX is designed for individuals with 2 years of interior design work completed. And like the IDFX, the IDPX is currently all multiple choice. You'll be given 4 hours to complete this exam. The prac. The practicum is 114 questions. And like the professional exam, the practicum is designed for people who've completed at least 2 years of interior design work. This exam does have those multiple question types, right, that aren't multiple choice. Instead, you're going to have hotspot, you're going to have drag and place, you're going to have fill in the blank. You'll be given 4 hours to complete this exam, and there are 18 standalone questions that do not deal with any of the case studies. So since our exam is changing to more of the practicum format, what I'm going to do is actually show you a video of the practicum as it is now. So that way you have a better understanding of what you're going to experience across all 3 exams in 2026. So let me bring that over here.
Hello. The following video will demonstrate the key functionality of the practicum exam platform.
Can you guys hear that audio from my video okay?
Yep, you're good to go.
Thank you.
The practicum exam includes 3 case studies, one for large commercial, one for small commercial, and one for residential. Each case study has 40 questions associated with it. At the beginning of each case, you're given the opportunity to review the case study. The case study and supporting resources will be accessible throughout the exam by clicking on the Open Case button that is attached to each question. Within that case study, there are 6 tabs: the Programming Requirements tab, a floor plan, the lighting specifications, the NCIDQ exam codes, a conversion equation table, and a help tab that will be available throughout the exam to review the functionality features if need be. When a question, exhibit, or case study does not fit on a single screen, you will need to utilize the page scrolling function. To scroll through the screen, click and drag the scroll bar as necessary. When referring to the resources provided in the case studies, you are able to do a single keyword search within that resource. It is important to note that the search function will locate a term as often as it is used in the document. Therefore, it may require several clicks to get to where you want to be. You may also adjust the size of the different resources within the case study to move the whole case study to a different location on the screen if desired. To move from one question to the next, you should click the Next button displayed at the bottom of the screen. To move to the previous page or question within a case study, click the Previous button. As you go through the exam, you are able to mark a question for review by clicking on the Mark for Review button. At the bottom of the screen, you will be able to revisit these questions at the end of each case study. You cannot, however, go back to a question in a previous case once it has been completed. You will be responsible for managing your own time. If you break down the 3 case studies into equal time frames, that is approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes on each case study. The amount of time remaining for the examination is displayed at the top right-hand corner of the screen. A warning message is displayed when there is 15 minutes remaining on the exam. There is a note function that can be found in the top navigation area for every question on the exam. To add a comment for a specific question, click on the Notes button. The note will be saved for that question only and can be reviewed when returning to that question. During the exam, you will be able to highlight or strike through text in a question that you think is important to refer back to. To highlight or strike through text, click and drag the mouse cursor over the desired text. Click on the highlight button or the strike through button on the top navigation bar. To remove the highlight or strike through, click on the same buttons and select Remove. Note that the highlight or strike through feature cannot be applied to background images, case studies, or exhibits. A calculator is available with every question on the tap navigation. The calculator can be used to perform any standard operation for which a handheld calculator is used. The calculator performs basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. If preferred, a handheld calculator can be requested from the test center administrator when checking in to take the exam. Now that the functionality of the exam platform has been reviewed, let's look at the functionality of the different item types on the practicum exam. There are 3 different types of questions that appear on the practicum exam. These question types are drag and place, hotspot, and fill in the blank. We will demonstrate these different item types using the exam platform. First, we'll look at how a drag and place item functions. For drag and place items, you will be asked to select a symbol, label, or dimension from the box on the left by clicking on the token or label you wish to move. Drag the token and release it when the appropriate spot has been identified. Be as specific as possible in placement of the label. Double check answers before moving on. If you want to select a different token, you are able to put it back and make another selection. The next question type is called hotspot. For these question types, you will be asked to place the target on a specific location within the image. When the location has been determined, click to drop the target. Targets can be moved again if you are not satisfied with your answer. The last question type is called fill in the blank. For these question types, you will be asked to provide a numerical response. In some instances, an exhibit will be attached to a question. The exhibit might be necessary to answer the question, therefore exhibits should be open to determine if they are needed. You are unable to zoom in on exhibits. However, you can move them to another location on the screen. Only a number is appropriate when answering these questions. Words or symbols will not be accepted and will generate an error message. Once all questions are completed in the case study, you will be given an opportunity to review that set of questions. All questions, only those marked for review, or incomplete questions can be reviewed when you get to the review screen. It is important, however, to keep an eye out on the timer to ensure not too much time is spent on the review process. Once a case study is completed, you will not be able to access it again. When you get to the end of the exam, you will click on Exit and that will end the exam. These are the key functionality features of the practicum exam format. Good luck on the exam.
Okay, so I always think it's really beneficial to kind of share that video, especially knowing that that's what the exam is really going to look like across all 3 exams in 2026 and what you might most likely will be able to encounter, of course, with the addition of the multiple choice questions. So one of the things that we're doing in 2026 is also we're getting rid of the case studies. So where you have the large commercial case study, the small commercial, and the residential, what we're going to do is actually have vignettes where we're going to ask you or maybe show you a drawing or ask you specific questions related on certain topics that maybe cover 4 to 5 questions, and not have these big case studies where you're looking at one format or one blueprint or anything like that to answer specific questions. We're just breaking it up, making it smaller, a little bit more easily digestible. And then you're still not going to have any software specifications where you're required to have any CAD or Revit proficiency. And then we're just kind of updating a lot of our format to kind of make it more current for current practices. Additionally, the prac name will be changing to the implementation exam, or the IDIX. But like I said, that video is definitely going to be beneficial for anyone who's looking to take the exam in 2026, because that's what you're going to be encountering, something like this. So let's talk about your eligibility pass. So you must provide transcripts that include 60 semester hours or 90 quarter credit hours of interior design coursework. As you can see here, there are varying amounts of work experience hours that are needed for the different educational buckets. Now, all of your hours must be affirmed by a direct supervisor or sponsor. We at NCIDQ launched a new database last year that allows you, the applicant, to import and send your work hours for verification to somebody who is either NCIDQ certified, somebody who is licensed as an interior designer in the US or Canada, or somebody who is licensed as an architect in the US or Canada. One of those 3 qualifications are eligible to sign off on your work experience hours, but they do need to be verified, and somebody does need to sign off on them. That is not yourself. Something else that we do that's really cool or really beneficial for students is up to 1,760 hours, which is essentially 1 year of interior design work experience may be earned before graduation. So what am I talking about there? I'm talking about your internship hours. Talking about maybe you guys worked in the summer and you have some summer work hours. Those hours would qualify. Maybe you guys are working and going to school at the same time. Those hours would also qualify. Up to 1,760 of those would qualify for your work experience requirements. So let's talk about those work experience requirements a little bit more. So what NCIDQ did last year is we established minimum thresholds within each of the design phases. And these minimum hourly requirements represent less than half of the total number of hours that you're required to obtain. And so that gives you, the candidate, great flexibility to acquire work hours across any of the design phases. Now, all of your work experience must be completed within the prior 10 years of the date of application. I'm a scenario person, so I'm going to give you a scenario that kind of better explains that. So let's say you guys decide to graduate and maybe practice for about 20 years before you approach taking the NCIDQ. That's perfectly fine. People do that. But that 1,760 hours that I was just talking about, that wouldn't qualify because we can only go back as far as 10 years and your work experience requirements. So we couldn't even look at those work experience that you got right out of school. So keep that time period in mind when you're thinking about the application process. So why did we make these changes last year? We did it for 2 very specific reasons. 1, it brings us more in line with other licensed professions. And 2, we believe that more explicit requirements open a conversation of collaboration between candidates and their employers to further support their growth as professionals and gaining various experience and knowledge. That was a very nicely eloquent way of basically saying that when you graduate, we don't want you guys just sitting in the back of the room doing a bunch of drawings. As soon as you graduate, we want you actually out there getting all of this kind of experience. And by having this work experience requirements in place, it kind of helps that conversation along with your employers who definitely want somebody who's NCIDQ certified on their staff. So, like the other slide, there's a useful application video, but I'm not going to play that. Instead, we're just going to talk about it. So there are 2 ways that you can approach taking the NCIDQ. You can split it up into two parts, or you can apply to take all 3 sections at once. So let's talk about that first way, the splitting it up. Now, if you're a senior or maybe a recent grad or something like that, and you want to take the IDFX while that knowledge is still up there and you're good to go with all of your academic knowledge, you can certainly take the IDFX. So with that, you're going to just apply to take the IDFX only. You're going to send me a copy of your transcripts. You're going to pay an application fee and be submitted just to take the IDFX. Now, once you take and pass the IDFX and you get your work experience hours, you'll then apply to take your PX and your prac. So that is a separate application. So with that, we're going to need a copy of your transcripts that just has your degree conferred. You'll have all of your work verified in the system and approved by a supervisor or sponsor. You'll pay an application fee and be submitted to take your PX and your prac because you've already passed your IDFX. Or you can simply wait, go ahead and graduate, go ahead and get all of your work experience, and then apply to take all 3 sections of the exam. So if you were wanting to do that, well, of course, you need a copy of your transcripts. You still need to have all of your work verified and approved in the system. You'll pay an application fee and be submitted to take all 3 exam sections. And you can take those in any order you choose, right? You don't have to take them like IDFX, IDPX, or prac. You get to choose the order in which you take them, the exam administration that you get to take them. All of that is good. It's just you'll be eligible to take any of the 3. So the NCIDQ exam is only available 2 times a year. We have a spring administration and a fall administration, and you can take the exam anytime you choose in the months of April and October once you've been approved. So let's say you're wanting to apply for this upcoming fall administration. You can certainly do so. You'll just need to have your application in by July 31st, so that way you could take the exam in October. Generally speaking, your application fee is a one-time fee. And once your application is approved, it's valid for, let's go to the chart on your left there. So the fees of applying in 2 parts. You're going to have 4 exam administrations or 2 years to take and pass your IDFX. Remember, I said that those are 2 separate applications. So you're going to have 4 exam administrations or 2 years to take and pass your IDFX. Once you take and pass your IDFX and then get all of your work experience, you're then going to apply to take your IDPX and your prac. That's that separate application. You're going to have 10 exam administrations or 5 years to take and pass your PX or your prac. Now, if you're wanting to apply to take all 3 exam sections, that chart you see on your right, you're going to have 10 exam administrations or 5 years to take and pass all 3 exam sections. All this to basically say that if you apply to take your IDFX exam first, you get 4 extra bites of the apple to take and pass the exam rather than if you're waiting to take all of your exams at once. I want to also remind you, application fees are non-refundable. If you are interested in taking the IDFX and maybe you're a senior wanting to go ahead and get that out of the way, please let me and a professor know. And what we can actually do is give you a voucher. And that voucher will cover your application fee. Won't cover. It will take off about $50 off your application fee. So your application fee would go down from $95 to $45. So if you are interested in that voucher, please let me and a professor at your school know, and we can make sure that we accommodate and get you that voucher code to kind of save you some money there. So your application fee and exam fees are explained here. Now your application fee is paid to submit your application for review, and it's typically a one-time fee. Now, once your application is approved, you'll then need to pay your exam fees, and those are more pay-as-you-go. So I'll give you another scenario. Let's say you go ahead and pay your exam fees to take the exam in October, but something happens in the month of October and you're not able to test. It's important to note that those exam fees you paid to take the exam in October cannot be transferred to another exam administration. They have to stay within the exam administration that you applied and paid for. And that's kind of what that last bullet point is talking about there. But let's face it, right? Things happen. And when they do, I want you to be aware of the terms that CIDQ uses and the fees associated with having to cancel, not schedule, or simply not showing up to take your exams. Here are some important takeaways. Approved applicants should not purchase an exam unless they intend to take it during the upcoming exam administration. If an individual has already purchased an exam for the upcoming exam administration and they decide they are not ready to test, there will be a $100 cancellation fee. Exams may only be rescheduled for another date within the current exam administration only, and rescheduling fees will apply. Everything you need to study for the exam is available in the candidate handbook that's available on our website. You should always refer to the candidate handbook and the blueprints, regardless of the study material you're using. I want you to be aware that any prep programs you come across beyond the material on our website are done by independent parties, and there's no association with CIDQ. We at CIDQ are a membership organization, and our members are the regulatory boards. So providing candidates with guides on how to pass our exam would be a conflict of interest. It is CIDQ's goal that the NCIDQ exam will help demonstrate competency to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. CIDQ does provide IDFX and IDPX exam test takers with preliminary score reports immediately following the completion of their exam appointment. Final and official score reports, including those for the practicum exam, are released 6 to 8 weeks after the exam administration window closes via your My NCIDQ account. All 3 exams are graded on an 800-point scale, with 800 being a perfect score. 500 is the passing point. And you can see here in each instance, the candidate does receive feedback on each section of the exam so they can assess their relative performance in each area. Should they need to take the exam again, they'll have a good idea of where they need to focus their efforts. You can see this really colorful map, and it represents a wide variety of regulations. Unlike architecture, which is regulated in all the states, there's a wide variety of regulation in interior design. You're going to have Title Acts, Practice Acts, and certifications. And it's always important to know that even if you do hold an NCIDQ certificate, that is not your one-stop shop to practice in the state. You do need to verify with your state, also known as a jurisdiction, regarding your title and requirements to practice. There are many professional organizations that you can join both as a student and a practicing interior designer, and all offer financial incentives to take and pass the NCIDQ, as well as many other benefits. American Society of Interior Designers, or ASID, members do receive their first year of professional membership free upon receiving their NCIDQ certification. International Interior Design Association, or IIDA, they do offer the opportunity to apply for financial assistance upon passing all 3 parts of the NCIDQ exam. And our friends in Canada, Interior Designers of Canada, or IDC, they do offer a variety of scholarships and bursaries, including the Wayne Thompson Bursary, which is awarded to 1 or more NCIDQ exam candidates each year. So you took and passed all 3 parts of the exam. You'll get the certificate you get to hang up on your wall. You'll also get to use what's called the appellation behind your name of NCIDQ. You're going to see a whole bunch of acronyms behind people's names in professional practice. Most of the time they have to deal with like association like ASID, IIDA, membership organization, NCIDQ. Of course, you can't put NCIDQ behind your name until you take and pass all 3 parts of our exam, and I issued that certificate number. But then there's stuff like lead well, fit well is something that I've become to know pretty recently as well. But those are all appellations, and of course you can't use that until you take and pass all 3 parts. So why does all of this matter, right? NCIDQ certification does tell people that you take your career seriously and you're committed to advancing. And many large firms do require NCIDQ certification to be considered for promotion and senior positions. Your peers, both in interior design and the allied professions, will recognize the level of effort that is required in achieving professional certification, and they're going to respect you for it. Remember that the NCIDQ certification is highly portable, so if your career takes you to different locations, we at CIDQ can help ease that path by validating your certification, helping you get licensed a lot quicker. In order to be considered for many government interior design jobs, you must be NCIDQ certified. And last but certainly not least, If you look around at all of the individuals who are assuming leadership positions within the profession, who are working hard for its recognition, its growth, its innovation, you're going to find that a vast majority of them are NCIDQ certified. And that's a really nice group to be associated with. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you all today. And this is a small group at CIDQ that helps make it all happen. Please feel free to reach out to any of us should you have any questions about the NCIDQ exam. We are all here to help and support you. Additionally, I welcome you to follow around me on LinkedIn. I do post a lot of date deadline information on my LinkedIn, but also I can be a resource. If you just want to shoot me a quick message through that platform, you are more than welcome to do so. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. And with that, I would love to hear, speaking of questions, if you have any questions at all for me today.
I was gonna let the students know that I do secure the certificate for you guys to get your discount. And then, Kayla, if you'll see, there's a note down there in fat from Professor Reagan, but I do get the, discount for you guys, for you to take your IDFX, and we had a few students actually do that this spring already. So, yeah. Anyone
Thank
else gonna have some questions for Kayla?
Thank you
Yeah,
so much. Oh, no, sorry. Thank you so very much for having me today. I enjoy being here and I enjoy doing this presentation for you all. I understand that we are in a little bit of a gray area, of course, between the two blueprints. So it could be a little bit confusing. Please feel free to email me with any questions or concerns that you have, and I'll be sure to give you a whole bunch of documentation so that way you guys can feel fully prepared to take hopefully this new exam in 2026, or if you're curious and you want to definitely take the IDFX as a senior or somebody who's going to be graduating soon. You're so very welcome.
Well, one thing, just in my role as an ambassador, so I want to make sure that we collect this information and share it out to the North Dakota Interior Design Group, because I've been waiting for this as an ambassador. So wanting to get this in sort of an outline format and some links that we can make sure that everyone in our community and our state has understands where we're heading. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be sure to send it to you
Definitely
definitely before.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so very welcome. Everyone's so very gracious. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right. You guys have a wonderful day. Reach out if you need me. I'm always here to help.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.